Thank you and welcome to our meeting tonight. And we will start with we had no action taken in closed session, so we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ms. Reed, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, can you provide us, Ms. Reed, with a summary of our workshop?
Thank you so much, President Forehand. We were really honored earlier this evening at our afternoon workshop to be joined by the Lion community, headed up by Mrs. Evelyn Garcia at Oak Middle School. It was really just a wonderful afternoon filled with learning about the schools, two wonderful student speakers, and really two dynamic songs by the Oak Choir that kicked off tonight's event. And then it was really wonderful. Mrs. Garcia closed by giving out the annual Hero of the Heart for her school, where they were able to recognize a parent who had given quite a considerable amount of time, not only to the PTA, but to the choir program at Oak Middle School as well.
Thank you. Moving on to organizational meeting A, election of officers to serve during 2024. And do I have a motion?
Yes, I would like to so move and nominate Mrs. Megatuli for president. Can I talk about Meg first, or should I? Good. So Megatuli is just has been a tremendous board member for over 24 years. She has led a lot of support between ourselves and our district and ROP. She has supported two bonds and done an amazing job in her leadership and all of the development of those bonds and the building of those bonds. She has been a leader in CSBA and led our district, District 15, and I could go on, but I think that she really deserves the honor of serving us as president.
Thank you for those kind words.
Do I have a second to that?
Second the motion.
Marlis is seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing that, welcome Ms. Catuli to president.
Woohoo!
Thank you, past president.
Now, I'm going to motion for Ms. Marlis Davidson to become the vice president of the board. And Marlis brings to the table a wealth of experience in our district as not only a teacher, but a mentor teacher to many. Her perspective helps us understand the classroom and everything that goes on there. So I move that we elect Marlis Davidson.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome, Ms. Davidson.
Woohoo!
All right, we now will officially give the gavel over here.
Thank you.
Catuli.
Now I'm armed. The next item on the agenda as part of the organizational meeting is the approval of our dates, times, and locations of our regular board meetings. We have actually had these on presented to the public and ourselves for probably 2 or 3 months. So I'd be interested in a motion to accept them as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I just want to make sure that we explain to the public, the December 17th meeting seems much later, but I think it's also because it's an election year. Is that correct?
Yes, so it's actually a little bit interesting. We were just talking about that at our superintendent meeting at the county last week. The ed code or election, I think ed or election code, I can't remember which code it is, stipulates that we've had to push back when our organizational meetings can be to allow the election to get certified. As you know, most recent elections, the past 8-10 years, have taken the register of voters longer to certify the election, so they need time to be able to certify that. We may have to see if we have to set up a second meeting because I believe the first interim has to be done by December 15th. Is that right? So there's some conversations they're trying to have with the legislature. Can they push back the first interim to be not, because this would be a perfect year where it doesn't align, to be able to do both conflicting dates. Otherwise, we'd be forced to have two meetings. So we'll wait and see, and if so, we can hold a special meeting then. But the main reason why it's so late is because to give time is that the board positions, 3 of them will be under election, and they have to wait to be certified.
Great. And then 2 other, I just want clarifications, and I know that you have already said this, that we have our regular meeting workshops, workshop only. Can you explain a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so all of the meetings are going to be considered a regular meeting because they're properly noticed to the public. We would post our agendas at least 72 hours in advance. But our workshop meetings on March 26th, April 30th, and October 22nd, most of our workshops start between 4 and 4:30, and that meeting would start, those meetings would start at that time, but there wouldn't be a follow-up 6 p.m. meeting.
Great.
So it'll be more study sessions or school celebratory sessions where we have, like today, this celebration for Oak.
And no business meeting afterwards.
Right. Technically, it's all a business, but yes.
Yes.
Yep. Just not.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulver.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor for approving the organizational meetings as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 unanimously. Okay, now we're going to move on to our recognitions, and the first person that we are going to talk about is past President Chris Forehand. Would you like to join me at the podium, please? I'm going to start first. Oh, I get to click the PowerPoint? Oh God, I'm so powerful here. Okay. This is always a very special time for us to thank our outgoing president, not only for running the meetings and getting us to dot our I's, cross our T's, and be legally compliant on so many different things, but to thank them and to let the entire community know all the things that have happened during the year that Chris was president. I am now going to start listing them, and there's so many of them, I'm not going to say them out loud because I truly believe everyone can read here or on YouTube, and you'll be able to just see all the things that have accomplished within our district since Chris took the helm. I do want to point out a couple of ones that I think are incredibly and outstanding. And the first is that first one, when we had 100% of our seniors last year graduate. I have been on the board 23 years. That has never happened. That is something that is so incredible. I am still continually boring people about that data because it's unbelievable. We continue to be recognized as a top performing district in Orange County, ranking #1 in English language arts and 3 in math. And we've had 3 of our elementary schools recognized as California Distinguished Schools. I would also like to say that we have an alliance with our Ed Foundation, LAIF, and we've been able to open up at the high school the loft, which is their well space, and also do some generosity through a private donation and from LAIF also, that we were able to open the Oasis, which is the outside wellness garden that is used constantly, and it is such a great place to stop and catch your breath, whether you're on staff or a student at the high school. Then I'd also like to mention that we have really beefed up our safeties at all of our campuses, because if our children and staff don't feel safe, you can't go forward with the day. We have also improved our online tutoring program. We're with Revolution Now, and it's to support all students in all grades 4 through 12. No charge to the students' family. It is something that we are providing for them. And I think if you're having an issue with something you're supposed to do at, 9:30 at night, it's kind of hard to figure out, who you're going to call to see what you need to do. And so if you're on Revolution Now, you can get help from a certificated instructor. Okay, and let's say flip it over. And we have also, we've done a lot of construction during our last few years, and we are now going to have a new gym that later on we're going to be approving in the agenda. And this will be like the end of all of the major construction that's going on at the high school. But that's just really exciting. And I know you have a grandson coming up. Hopefully he'll be using it. I have a couple grandsons who are wondering why they have to wait until they're juniors to use it, but hey, you know, they'll be able to use it. So what are they complaining about? Right. I also want to point out that besides being a member of our board and all the extracurricular activities that entails, that since he's been elected to our board, which for the past 4 years, he has been our SELPA representative, which is our special education consortium where we have gotten together with other school districts in order to provide better services for all of our special ed students by pulling together our resources. And then because I guess he has 15 extra minutes every day, he's also on the LaSalle Youth Center Board of Directors, and he is on the Rossmore Homeowners Association Community Outreach. He is constantly a crier, like a village crier, on the wonderful things that our district is doing, and you never hesitate to share them, and you never hesitate to tell people about that. Then some of the other, I just can go ahead and read down there because those are the things that we have done on our throughout our school year. And then I'd also like to say that one of the things that is really special about Chris is that he is known affectionately as Papa in all 9 schools. And he started out in the elementary school where his grandsons were reading, and he has made it his personal goal to read in every single elementary school classroom. And he does, and it's impressive. And then he does other things, like he'll show up at one of the middle schools and help serve lunch. I was with him serving hot chocolate and churros at the high school. You know, obviously we center our lives around food here. But he is always putting one of his steps ahead. What else can he do to serve all the students in our district? He frequently goes behind the scenes, and if there is a need, he's there. Chairs need to be moved, he'll move the chair. Does somebody need help moving a table? He'll do that. He was at the youth center selling, at Ganal selling Christmas trees for the youth center. He is just Mr. Everywhere and everything. And one of the things that he has done that, for me, and I'm thinking most of the board members would agree, is that he has created his medallion program where he gives out special badges in recognition. And he usually says the board has no budget, and that's because board members have no budget. We do not get to spend money how we see fit. We get to approve how the school's budget is spent, but nobody ever says, and here's an extra money for you guys to do something creative with. So he does this on his own, through his own finances, and I just think you are such a superlative person with it that you deserve one. And this says 1 because you're a number 1. And I am intimidated to follow in these footsteps because I'm not going to read in every elementary school classroom. I may serve lunch a day or two, but I don't think I'm going to be making these badges. So I really appreciate the fact that you said you'd continue doing this for us. So Chris, but really you've also run our meetings incredibly well. They're a business meeting. We have to get things done legally for the school district to be compliant. And you've always kept us on track and kept us well informed as the president. So I hope to match you in that aspect of it, but not everything else. Thank you. You finally got one. You are one. Yeah, it was the best one. I actually have 3 of them at home, and they're not that good. And there you go.
Oh, well, behind every board president is an incredible group of people that make the president look good and also keep him informed on everything. So I couldn't let it go that I got bracelets for my fellow board members that say, "You are awesome," and believe it. Okay, so that's for you guys because you made it work for me. I also have ones for the executive staff because wow, what they do to make things happen, and They're just so child-focused, like the board is, they are as well. And then I think the whole board would agree that everybody needs a Tina in their lives.
Yes.
So Miss Tina, you get the big medal, and you are number one. And what you do is amazing. So, thank you. That was great.
Well, I'll speak briefly. I'm going to speak briefly.
Oh.
I promised I'd be brief because Meg and I shared this list together. But Chris, I think he expends his entire measly stipend as being a board member for attending the meetings on Amazon, for pencils that he hands out to students, for stickers that he I think there are many in this room and many in this district who have received a little red envelope, and that little red envelope is usually a gracious, kind note to employees, to students, to staff, to different individuals for just how he has the time to be able to recognize everyone. And he's always just a light of positivity as everyone. So I think affectionately known, it's lovely to go onto our campuses because I think that's really the lifeblood of who we are as a school district. And when you go on the campus and to see kids, when you walk into rooms, as a principal, you're often like oh, Mr. This, Mrs. That. You're like a rock star. Well, Papa's a rock star when you go onto the campus. They all say, "Hi, Papa. How are you? Hi, Papa." And they can be in preschool all the way up to the high school. Even just yesterday, we were doing a walkthrough at the high school, and a few of our show choir students who he's champions for gave him a little heart after they performed. So, to give your recognition as our 2023 president of the board, we have a gift for you. It says "Dream Big" because you continue to help us dream big. And this one you do have to open up in front of all of us.
All right. Oh, how nice.
There's a little other thing
Oh,
in there.
The gavel.
Yeah, mini gavel.
Board of Education, your guidance and direction as a board member has strengthened the bond between the community. No. What's that say?
Between the community and the school.
Oh, and the
See, none of
school.
us have our glasses on.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
And now that Dr. Pulver and I have rhapsodized about Chris, I was wondering if any of the other board members would like to make a comment. Marlis, I'll start with you.
So everything you listed is absolutely phenomenal, and the whole culture of all of our schools has evolved and changed over the last year. Our kids are safer, they're happier, the teachers have been able to do a lot of professional training and working together. You've been a tremendous leader, but I think all of us probably feel, at least I know I'm speaking for myself, you are an ambassador of the heart. You have done so much. I mean, I think when I first came on the board, people would say, "Are you retired?" And I said, "Well, I'm on the school board." And a lot of people would say, "What's a school board?" So people understand that we now are a group that really cares deeply about our kids, that care about our staff, our teachers, our administrators, and our community. And a lot of that is because you've been everywhere sharing that kind of love, writing the notes, reading to the kids, but most of all, just doing any and every job possible. And I don't know how you keep up with all of it. You set a high bar for anybody who might contemplate running for office. But thank you with all my heart for being such a tremendous human being. Thank you.
Diana?
So I mirror a little bit of what Marla said and what we've all said, but it really got to me that every time you've given a medal to someone, you've never done it from yourself. You've always represented this board. You have always represented us as a body. And I just am so grateful for that. And really, wowed by that you remember to do that every single time. And I really think the number one thing about you, though, isn't your lovely medals. It is your incredible warmth and heart. And you have really created a warmth that I don't think, no offense to anybody else who's on the board, that nobody else has. The 13 years I've been here, I haven't seen that warmth created. And thank you so much for that and always representing all of us. And we're just really grateful that you have been our leader, and are very glad that you will be with us next year too.
Thank you.
Scott?
Tonight. Chris, you have been an inspiration. It's an honor to serve next to you. Everyone sees the medals, which bring great joy, but what not everyone knows is he writes 50 letters a week, it seems like. Yeah. Everywhere I go, I followed in his footsteps to help serve lunch. There's 2 letters from Chris on the bulletin board and the lunchroom at Lee saying how wonderful a time. He knows people's names. The greatest compliment I've ever received is when I go to a school and they say, "Oh, I got the loveliest letter from you, Mr. Forehand." I said, "Yes, yes, I am." It's an honor to be even considered close to you. And I agree with everything he said, everything she said, and everything they said. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. One last comment. I think my wife is looking down now, and now she is okay with the fact that I've ruined her dining room at home as my office with all my stuff. So thank you, and I'm going to pass these out as we go. And thank you, Meg.
You want to take 2 seconds to do a quick picture
Okay.
with Chris?
We're going to take a quick recess for photographs.
Okay.
No, I think you guys should join. Yep, we're
Okay. Thank you. Welcome back to our board meeting and our Love Fest. And we are now going on to my personal, and I do believe most of the board members' personally favorite part of our board meeting. We're going to have our student rep give her presentation. Joelle, please take it away. Oh, I don't have it. It's on the podium.
Thank you, President Cattouli.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Cattouli, esteemed board members, Dr. Pulver, and any community members watching in person or online. My name is Joelle Kaiser, and I'm your student representative to the Board of Education from Los Alamitos High School. Starting things off, in the month of November, we had some very special guests join us in the ASB room, Oak Middle School ASB. So they joined us during our ASB class to see what it's like to be a high school ASB student, but also just a Griffin in general. They embarked on a student-led campus tour, then returned back to the ASB room to get a tutorial on posters. We chatted about middle school life and all the exciting things to look forward to in their time at high school. This connection of the schools allowed future Griffins to feel welcomed and comfortable on their future campus, while present high school students exemplified pride and maturity while showcasing their school. We were able to practice our leadership muscles as leaders on campus, and this was a great opportunity to showcase unity in our one high school district where everyone, no matter what elementary school or middle school you go to, will know that they're going to be a future Griffin. And an impressive moment in academics this past month was when 3 teams made up of Los Alamitos High School students competed in the California Council on Economic Education 2023 Financial Advisors Competition. This competition was held at the Federal Reserve in downtown Los Angeles, and how it worked was all the teams were provided with a case study client, curriculum resources, and a professional mentor. Over the course of 2 months, each team developed to propose to maximize their case study client's financial situation to attain optimal outcomes. Our highest scoring team, pictured on the left, was made up of seniors Tyler Ho, Jean Chang, and Marion Chong, who made it to finals and placed 3rd in state. We're so proud of all of these students for working hard outside of school hours to pursue their academic interests. It was very professional. I was very proud to see my friends on campus, and it was great. And speaking of Griffins with a passion, the girls on the golf team is one devoted group. They're so devoted to their craft. They wake up early around 5 a.m. for matches, and because their matches last hours on end, they sometimes have to miss school. But they work extra hard in the classroom so that way they can dominate on the course. They are truly an academically motivated team and exemplify the idea that nothing will get in the way of doing something you love. During matches, the girls say their favorite part besides golfing is making new friends with other schools in the Orange County areas. Our Lady Griffins display great sportsmanship and are very humble, though they hold the title of being 6-time Surf League champions.
Wow, impressive.
And in the arts, marching band and color guard, I feel like are 2 groups that go together like PB&J. Can't get much better. They spend their fall season collaborating in a show. This year's theme was Chromatoscope, and they start off the year with a bang, having practices that span several hours, working on their competition routine, and also playing at football games. They've had some very cool experiences performing at SoFi Stadium, which you could see there, and recently they made the trek to Sacramento. This team was awarded 1st place at Western Bands Association Regional Competition and 2nd place at the Grand Championship. Wow. It is clear to see this team's dedication to their craft, which is easier to do due to the strong bonds they have made as a team. They're directed by Mr. Crockett and combine artistry and technique to put on a unique and entertaining performance. And one day I was just walking around during lunchtime. I probably had to hand a paper to a teacher, and I was just observing all these students just soaking in the sun, and I thought this would be great to mention in my student life part of this presentation. So At lunch, students get a break from academics and reunite with friends that they may have been classes with all day, or sometimes this is their first time getting to talk with their friends. Students pick their lunch spot of choice. Some opt for sitting on hills, the steps of the new STEM building, or the classic covered tables. And some prefer to stand and eat lunch too, as pictured right there. Whatever floats your boat. And lastly, some spend their lunch inside to attend club meetings and foster their passions. The variety of options to choose from during lunchtime allows students to seek a more relaxed and casual environment to socialize, which contributes to answering the age-old question, what was their favorite part of the school day? With the resounding answer being lunch. And that's okay when you get the sun shining on you and like these photos, which were taken in November.
Yeah.
And we still got that sunlight, so it was really great. And moving on to our student spotlight, Nathan attended Lee Elementary, then McAuliffe, and now is an amazing senior. If you frequent the choir shows, which I know most of you guys do, he'll probably look familiar to you as he's a member of the Advanced Choir Sound Effects. This is not only role that he plays at school, while he's also a varsity soccer player, a member of CSF and Spanish Honor Society, and an AP student. Nathan gives off the vibe of a movie's main character, excelling both in the arts and athletics. He made it onto the varsity soccer team his sophomore year, and each year he's been on it, the team has won their league. While he's been a part of the reigning national championship team for choir since his junior year. Both of these activities take up a huge amount of time in his day, and a lot of the times he starts his homework when the sun has already set, but he wouldn't change it for the world. As he reflects on his time in the Los Alamitos School District, he recalls his favorite memory being in 5th grade while graduating seniors came to visit Lee, and he can't wait to relive his elementary school memories when he gets to do the same in the spring. Last thing to note about Nathan is that he's got ambitions. He hopes to get into his dream school, the University of California, Santa Barbara, to major in economics and then earn a law degree. And with that, I would like to open the floor to any questions or comments from the board. Yes, Ms. Hill.
So I have a question about, I am so glad that you represented lunch and talked about that in a normal part of the day for our students. So you used one term, the hill. So I don't know where that is. Where is the hill?
So it's here's the Performing Arts Center, and it's to the left of it. And there's this hill right before the Griffin News and the covered table area.
Yes.
And some people like to call it Freshman Hill because when you're a freshman, you just tend to gravitate towards that hill. It's very nice. It's got some trees and shady.
That's lovely. And I am curious, do we have back in the day, and it was back in the day, we used to have what we called the quad. Do we have a quad at La Salle High School?
I'd say not too much. I mean, the area in front of the PAC gives off the quad vibe, but people just like to go everywhere. Like even behind the PAC, I feel like that could be a quad area. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. I can't believe I just learned something today.
Yay, I'm glad.
Anybody else? Joelle, I had the fortune of interviewing you and hiring you for this position, and you have far exceeded everything that we expected. So you too get an awesome bracelet.
Thank you. Yay. Thank you. And with that, that concludes my board report.
Thank you, Joelle. Okay, we'll now have our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. While I'm not the first to recognize that, Ms. Joelle was. Congratulations on being our board president.
Thank you.
And, we're
Thank you.
very
It's
grateful
an
for
honor.
your service in that new role. And congratulations to Vice President Mrs. Davidson. So it's hard to believe that we are wrapping up the first semester. I know when I've done so many different walkthroughs on the campuses and talked to different people, they're like, I can't believe how fast this school year has gone. At our secondary schools, finals are next week, if you can believe that. And so I thought what I would do for my superintendent's report tonight is just really kind of do a little bit of a spotlight on some of our arts programs. And so as you know, many of at our elementary schools, our students, through our music teachers and our grade level teachers, they do grade level music performances, often at McGaw Elementary in the auditorium. And this is just an example. I think this was either Weaver or Hopkinson doing their, or Rossmore doing their holiday music performance down at McGaw, and it's just you can see the joy. But what I always love whenever I go to different events when students are performing is if you get an opportunity is to really watch the parents and see their eyes light up and the cameras trying to just capture the amazing talent of their kids. And both through some of our performances or even just walkthroughs on our campuses, whenever you go to a middle school or high school campus and you walk into one of the band rooms, they like want to perform for you. They stop, can we play this song for you? And they've got such a captivated audience because we are constantly mesmerized by the talent of our students. And so this is some of our middle school students in band and jazz, and then you'll see the other is just one of our performances at the drama performances as well at middle school. And then just reversed, we have two middle schools, so we thought we'd try to highlight. Again, you can see the production value of some of our from drama, as well as whether it be our Veterans Day ceremony or what our bands at our middle schools continue to always find ways to showcase the talents of our students and insert them into various ways to really celebrate the culture and life of the school community. And just recently, we were able to, a few of us, we were at the high school and was able to, sometimes we think of arts, we think a lot of the performing arts, but there's all of the applied arts, whether it's jewelry making, or in this case, this was ceramics, and to see the work of our students in our ceramics class. And really all the way, what I love about the ceramics class too, is they had students who were in advanced and students who were in AP in the same class and just their individual studios. And they can talk to us about the kilns and the different types of dyes and the different types of fires that you would use for the different motifs of the productions that they're trying to produce. And so really just impressive. In fact, I believe our students at the high school are doing an art showcase this week. Is it this week, Papa? That they're selling some of that we were. So on Thursday and Friday at the high school, they're at lunchtime, our students are selling and showcasing some of their work. So as we talked to some of the teachers, I said, well, some of their prized work they're keeping for themselves, and I can't really blame them. It's hard to part with some of that. And then had the great pleasure, amazing dance performance. You see that looks like it's Hamilton there. Our girls and boys who were girls and boys, our young men and young women who were dancing at the high school. I did a phenomenal dance performance, quite a production at the high school. And then our high school drama as well did, I think just recently, it was something like 60 plays in 2 minutes each, something like that. And our early production, or early awards, they just earned first place in the Inland Invitational One Act Festival. So really exciting. And then you just heard Joelle talk about our amazing marching band and color guard, whether we got a chance to be able to see them at our on our halftime shows at football, but as well it was just to see our band do so well. And you heard about the second place at the grand championship that they did. So congratulations to our arts march performing band. And then of course our LAHS show choir, who just does an amazing job of performing. They just did their holiday show. I think this is the second show they've already done this season so far. And our students just have so much passion and talent. They, anybody who says, well, my gosh, that's the first time I've been to one of the show choir performances, they're like, wow, that's like going to Broadway. That's like really, our individuals are so impressed. And so our show choir every year, they really are the highlight for the Los Alamitos Chamber of Commerce. This community comes together and they really sponsor and they ask our students to come and perform for them. And that picture in the bottom right is one of the little vignette of one of the musicals at the chamber breakfast. So this community really is constantly impressed. I think at the chamber breakfast, most of us were moved to tears by the performances, and they did a 20-minute plus performance. So I think they've had 17 grand champion titles just back recently. So, and then at this time of year, it's also a time that we just want to say thank you. As we are in the people business, and 85% of our budget-ish, 85% is really goes to personnel, because we're all about cultivating the youth, and we do that through our human capital. And so I just want to take the time to be able to thank our exceptional team of employees on all school sites who just run to our students, who support one another, who support our students and families in a myriad of ways. We just want to say thank you. We were able to, Cabinet this Monday was able to deliver baskets of Mrs. Fields cookies to all of our school sites to just say in a small way, thank you to the precious and difficult work that our staff do each and every single day. And just like our students who are looking forward to winter break, I know that our staff are as well. So it's always a nice time to kind of rest and recharge and to be with family. And so regardless of the holiday that you serve, I think we're on the fourth night, I believe it is, of Hanukkah. Christmas is coming up, Kwanzaa. We just want to wish all of our families a wonderful and warm holiday season and good tidings into the new year. So that concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pulver. We'll now go on to board reports, and I would think I'll start with Mrs. Davidson.
Well, we've been mentioning all of the performances, and I think the holiday season just sort of cultivates that. And the dance performance, I agree, it was absolutely astounding. They went through, it was 3 young women who found one of the girls' father's old record set and went through time playing all of these different songs. So it wasn't just ballet or just jazz. It was hip hop. It was 60s rocking out. It was like everything imaginable, including Hamilton and more current music. And the talent is unbelievable. I don't understand, because I thought all the kids were singing or all the kids were playing instruments or out on the football field. But no, we have so much talent in our schools that's cultivated by fabulous instruction and support from families. It's phenomenal. I think I've said before when we were doing a walkthrough and I asked the boys choir group how many of them had done dance and choreography before they got to high school, because it looked like a scene from West Side Story when they were practicing. And out of about 50 young men, one person raised his hand. Mm-hmm. Nobody had dance instruction before. And I'm telling you, I could have taken ballet and tap my whole entire life, and I would have wiped out those lines going the wrong way. They are so dedicated and committed and so inspired by the people who lead them. The holiday choir performance was absolutely amazing. My husband now says, you did get 2 tickets, right? So, because before it was, do I have to go to a high school performance? Now it's, so what's going on? Where are we going? The McAuliffe Band concert, it was McAuliffe's band concert. Oaks is tomorrow night. Was astounding. There were kids in there that played 4 and 5 songs in the beginning band who started playing the musical instrument in September. It's magical, and they were so proud of what they accomplished. And like Dr. Pulver said, the parents' faces just lit up. We had our second meeting of WASC, which is the Western Association for Schools and Colleges. It's where our schools are validated, where we create plans to improve in certain areas, and that's done by self-evaluation and peer review over the course of the entire year. And I really want to say thank you to the high school administration, to Mrs. Reed, and to everyone involved in preparing for this WASC review, because it is an entire year of looking in classrooms, analyzing instruction, and figuring out how we can do better. And it's just really so impressive. And they do it every 7 years. the LAE walkthrough, the hardest part is leaving the little ones. It will be an hour into an hour, 2-hour walkthrough, and we're still in second grade and not wanting to leave. So, but every single classroom has that light and that love in it. The kids are on the floor reading together, dissecting a science project online, working on a math computer game. The teachers are working in small group or doing classroom instruction, and everywhere you go, there's joy. So it's just so uplifting to be a part of that. All of us went to San Francisco for the annual school board convention conference, and we get to go to like keynote speaker addresses, but then there are just a multitude of breakout sessions that you can go to over a 3-day period. And I think that the mental health, once again, was a big focus, and self-care for adults, students, for all staff. That was a priority, and talking about how I think as a culture, we tend to think by, if you say, how am I doing? This was one of, they talked about pivoting. If you ask me how I'm doing great. I'm so busy, I never sleep. And that validates who we are. And they talked about how we need to take better care of ourselves than that can't be who we are as human beings. The other couple of breakout sessions I attended that most of us did in one version or another had to do with how to operate, how to handle a school board in such a volatile time with all of the politics entering in at the most fundamental levels of government. And I think what I walked away with for myself, because I need to learn it, is to remain calm and to be more of a listener than a talker, and to really try and understand where the person is coming from, who may have a completely different perspective than you, and that we can all get through the next year and maybe better for it if we can learn how to talk with each other, respect one another, and take a little bit from each other and realize that we're better off with multiple perspectives and ideas. It's not easy, but we'll see how the next year goes. Today, Oak came and sang, and they talked about going to the high school. And you talked about that, Joelle, coming to the high school, the student leaders, and being with you as a student leader. And we were there that day giving churros and hot chocolate out. The Oak kids were fully embraced by the high school students. They didn't look scared. They looked like they were having the time of their lives and ready for a transition to that bigger campus. And finally, I just want to thank the community, because we've talked about the chamber breakfast where the choir sang. Each one, and Chris's involvement with the youth center, and all of us take different roles in the community. And I've been really fortunate and blessed to work with Rotary. And Rotary is a group, are young people in the Interact Club at the high school who are connected with our Rotary Club, which is business people from the community and all walks of life, and dedicated to service to the community. And everybody works together, because we were, as Rotary members, we were at the Christmas tree lot working with the youth center and other groups. And everywhere you go, people are coming together as a community in a way that just cultivates that kind of love. And it also gives understanding to the needs of others. And so as we come to the holidays, I hope that we all have an eye for the people who need us, and we all stop the crazy, busy frenzy of life and really stop and care and help those people when we can. Maybe a friend who's, lonely, or a friend who's lost somebody that they love. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, happy holiday, and I am honored and thrilled to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlis. Mrs. Hill.
It's funny because I just decided to highlight one thing, but it correlates with what Dr. Pulver and Mrs. Davidson said. We did a walkthrough at the high school, and it was, you cannot go into every classroom when you do a walkthrough at the high school. So there needs to be many of them. And so Mrs. Krause decided to take us through the arts, and it was joyful. And it was wonderful. I go to a lot of these performances and shows and so on and so forth, but it was really wonderful to see the students rehearsing and practicing and working on their projects and their art. And there was just an extraordinary this talent, like looking at choir, I know they just finished their holiday show and they're already starting on their big production show, and you would have never known that they were just starting on it. And the same with jazz, getting ready to perform, and all of the different arts. I think that's one of the things that I so appreciate about our district is that LaSalle isn't known for just being this school. LaSalle is excellent at so many different things. And what that means is that there's opportunities for every student that walks on campus. We had the amazing opportunity to see drama getting ready to do their final project and walk through with their teacher. We had the opportunity to go through a CTE classroom that's for EMTs, and they have a almost life-size model of a ambulance, the back of an ambulance. COVID money. Yes, and it is magnificent with all this technology that they can utilize to help further teach. And these students are so excited about these options. So LaSalle is so much more than simply the academics. They are strongly in the academics, but everything that we do, there is a level of excellence that's expected. There's a level of passion that comes through with each one of our students. And we walked through the life skills classrooms, and the joy in there and the understanding of what they are working on and what they are teaching those students at that level to be able to do in their life and moving forward. And I also just really want to say we had a little pit stop to use the restroom in the Wealth Center, but we also went to see the Wealth Center because it's beautiful. But I was also really impressed because when we were in there, I was being shown how the check-in process works. And Mrs. Krause was telling me, because I had kind of wondered about it, you know, we have this wellness center and it's supposed to be for students to be able to come in when they need some downtime or they need to talk to somebody. And I didn't ask a lot of details, but how did that work? And she shows me this amazing iPad that they go in and they check in. And when they check in, an email goes to the teacher of that student, of where that student's supposed to be. The student has to come in with a pass. So there's an accountability process as well when it comes to that. And I think that's also really important because we recognize that teenage kids are teenage kids, right? And so I loved that. And then I said, oh, well, where did we get that? And they said, well, of course, Dan Bennett, which is, he's our technology coordinator, and he absolutely created this app. And now other centers in the county are asking, oh, how do you do that? How does that work? So I just am always amazed at the level of passion and excellence that is in every part of our district and our school. And so it was a very joyful moment for me. And I will say that Mrs. Dingelo's son made me cry when he was rehearsing his number, but it was a really special walkthrough. And so I just hope that this holiday season, like Mrs. Davidson said, I'm not very good at slowing down, not my nature, but I hope that everybody can slow down a little bit. Enjoy togetherness, enjoy those people that are close to you. Remember those that aren't with you any longer, and that I hope you get an opportunity to rest and restore. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. Mr. Forehand.
Yes, I've divided my short comments about what I've done and how wonderful this district is, and all of you have taken practically everything I was going to say. But I will highlight that LAIF and our wonderful foundation and all the dollars they're currently giving our sites to improve and make even stronger our STEM programs. I would like to highlight the Griffin Gazette. It's not only now going videoed, and they do episodes of it where they highlight some of their writing, but the work they do is the writing they do. And for Lori Franza, she's just a gifted teacher. She must be, because she continues to get them to write great articles. I mean, where else can you go and learn about the latest fingernail paint stuff that's going on for you ladies? And I wanted to highlight the middle schools moving into the program No Place for Hate, which will be a dedication to improve and make even stronger our inclusiveness, student empowerment, and provide resources and how we can even be stronger. You heard so much tonight about the ASB leadership team and their connections. Well, we're going to take it even a step further with conversations about diversity, tolerance, and inclusivity. Thank you to the Lee staff, the LAE staff, and the McGaw staff, and Mrs. Reed for traveling back east to attend the Ruler Conference, where they will make us even stronger in providing nurturing learning environments and talk all about emotional intelligence and how to enhance that. That's great for our kids. I too joined Diana on walks at at the high school, and I just wanted to reiterate what you said about the ROP CT program. Meg, you need to convey that we were blown away. Okay, would you take care of that, please? That's my last directive to you as no longer president. Okay. And we enjoyed today, Dr. Pulver and I and Nicole were at Hopkinson, where all the Huskies are being well taken care of. You've said so much about Broadway tonight. I won't reiterate, but I would like to say I thought the dance production was the most amazing. I really felt like I was on Broadway watching those girls and their interpretation and all the dance. It was just wonderful. Marching band. What else did we have? Just all the celebrations, McAuliffe Orchestra, all that you've already mentioned. But I want to end with kids, because kids are a gift to us and our community. And our Model United Nation kids celebrated their trip to New York. I got to go visit with them at their meeting at lunch, and all 46 of them or something came in, and they have a president and a vice president. It's all student run. And then Ryan Ramirez, the ASB president, recently won more awards for what they went to another little conference. Congratulations to our PTA Reflections winners at every site that participated, and we have 9 kids now going on to the Orange County competition. LoSal, you mentioned them finishing first in the Inland Invitational One-Act Drama Festival. And thank you, Joelle, for mentioning the financial advisors. I'm going to be contacting them. I could use all the help I could get. And then LoSal cheer and song are off to all their national championships. So happy holidays to all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. It sounds like everybody has done a year-end wrap-up, because so much has been happening, and I'm not going to repeat what has been said. I just want to throw out that Scott Fayette and I also attend the LaSalle PTA Council meetings, and I really think of it, it gives me a chance to connect with the local leadership in all of our school sites, and it really gives you, as a board member, a great feel on what's happening in campus. And I really want to thank the people involved in PTA Council and all the people behind them. I think, they're representing hundreds of people, and it's really great. And then the only thing else I wanted to add was on the AEC, which is the board's opportunity to have professional development. And I'm going to focus on the ones that I went that were different, although you guys still may have gone in there. I tend to go to the finance ones, and I think it might be because I like to get depressed. I don't know why, but it seems like every single year the legislative analyst office is always saying there's no money, and the governor's saying, oh, sure there is. This is regardless of who's the governor. But it's always good to be informed, and Mrs. Galicia hasn't changed my opinion of the budget yet. So we'll see what happens when it comes out in January. And then I would just like to add that I was with them doing the churros and hot chocolate, which is something the administration wanted to do for the kids, which again shows the focus of our entire school district on students. And Scott's sitting way over there. So Mr. Fayette, would you like to join in? No, you can tell by his mask and he's being sent down, to the outer Mongolia there, that he isn't feeling well. So I guess the best thing I can do for Scott is just to move this meeting along. Okay, so I guess my next question is, do we have any cards? No cards, so I don't have to read that paragraph. And we are now going to go on into our consent. This is the official business part of our meeting. And I don't have any polls. Our consent items are considered usual or customary in nature. And if there is something that a board member has a question about or wants to make a comment on, we pull them. Otherwise, we take them as a single item. So may I have a motion to approve consent item 12A through V?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on to action items. And our first action item is that we have a highly qualified, dedicated, brilliant, wonderful human being who would like to run for delegate assembly, which is a representative office with the California School Boards Association. And the first step to do this is for her board to approve her running. So that would be for Diana Hill to run for a delegate assembly. May I have a motion, please?
I so move.
Okay, is there any comment?
Should be wonderful.
Yeah, well, Diana, best of luck, because she's elected from people in all the districts in Orange County.
Thank you very much. I'd be very honored.
Okay, so all those in favor in supporting Diana's run for delegate assembly, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're now going to our first reading of revised board policy 5113, absences and excuses. Dr. Wieswright, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Tonight we bring forward a first reading of Board Policy 5113. This policy is being updated in accordance with CSBA policy guide sheet recommendations. The updates don't include any major changes and do reflect the district's current practices.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion for first reading approval?
Also move.
Is there any comment by a board member? No? Okay, all those in favor for this first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a reading of revised board policy 5145.12, which is search and seizure of property. Dr. Wieswright, would you speak to it, please?
Yeah, thank you. Once again, this is being updated in accordance with the CSBA policy guide sheet. The updates clarify the district's right to search students and their property when there is reasonable suspicion and or threat to the health and safety of the students or staff. And these updates are aligned with our district's current practices.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion for the first reading, please?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on approval of a leaseback contract for the Los Alamitos High School Gymnasium project. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm super excited to bring forward this lease contract with Erickson Hall. As you know, we went through the process of requesting for qualifications where we qualified contractors, and then we went through the process of an RFP, which is a request for proposals. We then interviewed 3 construction companies, and Erickson Hall came, as the top construction company that would provide the best value for this project. So therefore, we are requesting approval to move forward with this lease contract.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion?
I move.
Are there any board comments? I would just like to say that I know that our STEM building actually came in a little under budget, which you never hear in school construction. And I know that we have a good working relationship. And like I said before, I have 2 grandsons who really want that new gym. So I'm very happy that we're going forward. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I do have one, I'm sorry, I will say that this project has been a long time in coming, and the community has wanted this project for the community as well as our school site. But I have heard in the community from a number of years how badly they have wanted this project. So I'm very thrilled that we are moving forward on it.
Yeah, and tagging on to what Mrs. Hill said, the reason why this is like our last big project is that we were not sure we would have enough money for it. And we really felt as a board and reflecting the community is that the STEM building at the high school really took precedent. We needed to replace portable classrooms. We needed to update our science rooms. And this was something that we really need to do. And it would impact just about every student on campus at some point during their 4 years. But if you ever had a child in athletics, we have kids practicing in our existing gym from about either 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. We also have many gyms in the area. If they can find them, the booster clubs are renting them because they don't want their child starting for a 2-hour workout at 6 o'clock in the morning or starting a 2-hour workout at 7 o'clock at night when they still have homework to do. So yes, exactly what Mrs. Hill said. This has been something we encourage our students to, try out and join different athletic teams. And we try to have, 3 levels of every athletic team out there, but then where are they going to practice? So this is a good solution for all of our students.
And if I may add, also, I would like to thank CJ Nolan for his hard work and our legal team who has been side by side assisting us to making sure that this project does get moved forward.
Definitely.
Awesome,
Yeah, CJ, you have made what you have done probably in the last 5 years. Should it be, I don't know, be like working 10 or 15. Yes. Thank you so much. We've voted, correct? Yes, correct.
Yes.
Okay, then we can go on. The next one is approval. Oh, it's back to Mrs. Galicia, our interim report. That's on our budget.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Madam President and esteemed members of the board. I'm super excited to co-present today for the first time alongside with Myra, so I'm super excited. I'm going to go ahead and have her get started, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Galicia. Good evening, Madam President, esteemed members of the board, Dr. Pulver, Executive Cabinet, and guests. It is with pleasure that I'm here this afternoon to co-present with all of you, Ms. Galicia, our 23-24 first interim report. So our first interim report represents our first official revisions from our adopted budget, and we presented our adopted budget in June of this year. Our first interim report includes actual revenues and expenditures data from July 1st through October 31st, with revised projections for the remainder of the fiscal year. Each school district is required to certify its financial condition twice during the fiscal year. So we bring our first interim, that's our first time, and our second time would be our second interim. And we want to demonstrate that we are meeting our financial obligations. So for our 23-24 budget assumptions, we are comparing our adopted budget that we presented in June of 2023, our revised budget that we presented at the same time with our unaudited actuals in September of 2023, and now we're bringing forth our first interim right now. We are reflecting our changes in red. Currently, our COLA, our STIRS rate, and PERS rate for at first interim remain unchanged. Ms. Galicia did present in September a health benefit rate of increase of $909. And our enrollment projections at adopted budget and revised budget remain at $8,787. We are happy to report that when we calculate our CalPADs of October, we gained 144. So that places at first interim, 8,931. Our unduplicated pupil percentage remained at adopted budget and revised budget at 17.16%. Now at first interim, it did slightly increase to 17.50, and that's due to additional families who completed meal applications. And our projected LCFF entitlement per ADA for at adopted budget and our revised budget remain at $11,661, and we did see a slight increase at first interim of $11,684. So we are required to have a current year budget assumptions and 2 subsequent year budget assumptions. So right here we are illustrating our 23-24, our current year, our 24-25, and our 25-26. Our COLA is at first interim, we are assuming at 8.22%. Our at 24-25, we are assuming at 3.94%, and for 25-26, 3.29%. Our STRS rate have remained flat in our current year and in the 2 subsequent years. Our PERS rate for 23-24, it did increase 1.31%, and it's at 26.68. For 24-25, it increased 1.02%, and for 25-26, it increased 0.60%. We did Mrs. Hill, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just, I have a question before you move on from that.
Oh, okay.
So my question is that I've been on the board, this is going into my 13th year, and I know that this number has increased substantially. It looks like that we're slowing down in that amount that is that the district is now responsible to. Is that true, not true?
So we just received information that the PERS rate might be slightly higher for the second and third year out. So for the second year, it's estimated at 27.80, and for the third year out, it's estimated at 28.50. The PERS board has not adopted that yet. They plan to adopt that in spring of next year. But we have seen that it has fluctuated. It has been around within the same comparable numbers. We are staying optimistic that it doesn't increase that much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Our state unemployment insurance rate has remained at 0.05%, and we're assuming that for the 2 out years. Our health benefit per employee cost for 23-24 is $18,561, $20,603 for the 24-25 year, and $22,869 for the 25-26 year. Our enrollment projection at 23-24, it's 8,931. And for the 24-25, as we base it off of our roll-ups, our projection is we do anticipate a decrease of 99 students. And for the 25-26, a decrease of 51 students. However, we are still hopeful that with the UTK implementation, that'll help, and hopefully it's not 99 or 51 less. Hopefully that number decreases as well. Our projected P2ADA for 23-24, it's 8,554. For 24-25, it's 8,461, and for 25-26, is 8,412. Our projected funded ADA, and this is based off of our 3-year average, is 8,939, and then in the outward years, 8,625 and 8,464. Our unduplicated pupil percentage for 23-24 is 17.50, and we're assuming that in the out years, it'll be 17.72 and 18.16. Our projected LCFF entitlement per ADA for 23-24, 11,684, and for the out years, 12,163 and 12,569. Oh, of course.
Sorry, can I ask, why do we expect our unduplicated percentage to go up? How do we calculate that?
So we calculate it based off of our local control funding formula. So since our participation and meal applications have increased, we assume right now 17.50, and in the out years that it's assuming that we are going to have families participate more and increase our unduplicated pupil percentage. Oh, it's a 3-year average as well. So Ms. Galicia has presented this illustration in the past. It's our enrollment, our actual P2 ADA, and our funded ADA. Our seedbeds enrollment is illustrated using the red line. Our actual P2 ADA is illustrated using the blue line, and our funded ADA is illustrated using the green line. And I would like to walk you through this illustration. So in 2018, 2019, 2019, and the year 2019, 2020, starting from the bottom, going towards up. So we have our actual P2 ADA. You'll see that it's at 94.77, 94.37. And then we have our funded ADA of 95.45, 94.77. And then our enrollment at that time was higher, 97.30 and 96. So as we move forward to the year 2021 and 21-22, that is around the time when COVID hit. Yeah. And our estimated P2 was less at 88, 89, and then our CBETS enrollment was at 93.17 and 91.33. And as you can see, we were held harmless. So we were funded at 94.37 and 94.33. In the year 22-23, that's where we had the discussions about the big cliff. And our estimated P288 was 84.95. And our enrollment was 89.34. However, with the 3-year average, which per se was our saving grace, we were funded at 92.52. So for our 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26, our actual P2 ADA is 84.94, 84.01, and 83.52. However, if we look at our 23-24, our funded ADA is higher than and slightly higher than our enrollment. And then for the out years, you'll start to see that it's starting to look similar to how our 2018-19 and 2019-20 looks, where our funded ADA is still higher than our actual P2 ADA, but our enrollments, our CBET enrollments, is higher. So we talked about a major cliff in 22-23. This is sort of a small little cliff per se. And as we have mentioned in the past, we are funded based off of our ADA, not our enrollment. Mm-hmm. So as the average, because we're being funded in our based off of 3-year average, as our actual P2 ADA starts decreasing, our overall average starts decreasing as well. Ms. Galicia?
Thank you so much, Myra. Are there any questions so far? I know that enrollment and ADA, P2, and the average all kind of get really confusing because it is something that it is very confusing. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward with our budget adjustments for this first interim report. So what you're looking right now is our unrestricted general fund budget adjustments. So at adopted budget, we compare it to our first interim. So as you recall, the very first line is our beginning fund balance. At adopted budget, we anticipated our ending fund balance to be a little over $8 million. When we closed the books in September, we brought forward our unaudited actuals, and we indicated that our ending fund balance was actually a little over $10 million. We gained $2.2 million when we closed the books in 22-23, and that's primarily because not all the funds, we assume that we're going to spend every dollar that we get. Sites don't spend all their funds, so we do have quite a bit of carryover, and we don't spend every dollar that we anticipated we're going to spend, just to be conservative, right? In our revenues, at first interim, we did see an increase of $1.2 million total revenues, and that is primarily once we do the final LCFF calculator, we did see a small decrease of $33,000. We also saw an increase of $300,000 due to the state lotteries. When we closed the books last year, the state lottery went a little bit higher, so when we adopted the budget, we didn't anticipate that, so now we're making that adjustment. We also are seeing an increase in our county treasurer's interest rate, which is a good thing. We always anticipate, at the beginning of the year, we had been seeing 1% to 2%. Now we're seeing close to 3%, almost 4%, so that's a good thing. So we are increasing that, and hopefully it does continue to be in the positive there. We also had a decrease in our contribution to restricted programs. As you know, we always contribute to special education and routine restricted maintenance. Once we looked at the budget, we realized we had a slightly higher number, so we're bringing it down by $500,000. We had talked about this when we brought over our estimated actuals in comparison to our unaudited actuals. And overall, in our expenditures, we saw an increase of $2.2 million, and that's primarily due to once we hire all of our new staff, once we have our enrollment numbers. When we adopted the budget, we anticipated to have 5 FTEs less because we were assuming lower enrollment numbers. Since our enrollment numbers ended up being slightly better, our staffing actually ended up being better. So we had to bring those 5 FTEs that we originally thought we were going to have to eliminate. So therefore, we had to make those adjustments, as well as our health and welfare benefit cost also increased, as Ms. Gonzalez mentioned. As we move forward into throughout the year, we're going to continue to see books and supplies, contracted services, and capital outlay, which is equipment. We move monies around, programs around, so you'll see some negatives and some positive, but overall, in these categories, it's just transfers from one account to another. But overall, it's a $2.2 million increase in expenditures. So at the end of the day, our unrestricted ending fund balance as of our first interim is $7.7 million, which is $1.2 million higher than when we adopted the budget. But keep in mind, it's also because once we closed the books when we brought over in September of 2023. When we look at our restricted general fund budget, this one gets very complicated, mainly because restricted programs, which is considered categorical programs, are restricted. They are specifically used for specific purposes, so we have to assign them to those programs. And if you look at the beginning fund balance when we adopted the budget, we assumed our ending fund balance was going to be about $6.7 million. When we closed the books, one more time, we ended the year on June 30th of 2023 with a $17 million fund balance. The bulk of that ending fund balance was those one-time funds, arts, music, block grant, expanded learning opportunity programs, We also have donation funds that we didn't spend. We also had ethnic studies program we didn't spend, ESSER funds we hadn't spent. So that's the bulk of the money that you'll see as our ending fund balance increasing. And like I said, they're one-time funds. We were assuming we were going to spend them. In 2022-23, we didn't end up spending them, so we have to carry them over. In our revenues, we see an increase of $6.3 million in revenues. That's not necessarily brand new money. What happens when we close restricted programs at the end of the fiscal year, a lot of these programs are subject to deferred revenue, which means when we close the books, we have to remove the revenue in that fiscal year and move it over into the new fiscal year. So it's not necessarily brand new money. It's money that had not been accounted for when we adopted the budget, and we didn't spend in the previous year. So it's just basically moving from one fiscal year to the next. So that's why it gets a little confusing. People assume, oh, you're receiving all brand new money, but it's not really brand new money. It's just we're deferring it from one fiscal year to the next. And when we defer that revenue, we have to account it as current year revenue, but then we also have to account for the expenditures that are tied to that revenue. Does that make sense? Awesome. So then if you look at our ending fund balance for the restricted program, when we adopted the budget, we assumed we were going to have a little over $5 million. At first interim, our ending fund balance is a little over $10.9 million. And half of that is $5.4 million of the arts music block grant monies that we're not spending. We're keeping it as ending fund balance because we haven't decided exactly how we're going to spend it, but we've earmarked it specifically for the PAC. We've also, maybe about $2.7 million is designated for the Learning Recovery Program, which we have not assigned how we're going to spend those money. Maybe about $500,000 for some staff, TOSAs, supplies, things like that. But the bulk of it, like I said, it's all restricted, and some donation funds that have not been allocated, as well as lottery monies are also part of the $10.9 million. So like I said, they're all restricted, but earmarked for specific purposes. So when we look at the multi-year projections for this current year and the next fiscal year, this is the most important part that I think the board is very interested in, and as part of their fiduciary responsibility, we want to make sure that we are meeting those 3 years out with the reserves at 3%. If you look at our projected total revenues for the next 3 years, assuming the 3.94% COLA for 24-25 and the 3.24 for 25-26, which we don't know if that's truly going to come to fruition. As you heard, that COLA could actually end up being a lot less than 3.94. But based on what the county has recommended, we are still assuming that same COLA in our multi-year projections. We are going to show you what it would look like if we had that 1.27% COLA. So as you can see, our total revenues, our total expenditures, transfers in and transfers out, and then our committed reserves, and then our total unassigned fund balance right now is 5.07, and then for the next subsequent years, 4.08 and 3.07. That's not including our Fund 17 reserves that we have designated for any unforeseen conditions. That brings us to a total of 8.98% and 8.28% for the 24-25 fiscal year and 7.25 in the 25-26. So as we adopt this first interim, we could say that we do meet our financial obligation in the current and the next subsequent years. So the big question right now is, how is our multi-year projections going to look like should that COLA come to fruition, where it's 1.27, which the LAO has alluded to the last few advisories we've been receiving. So if that were to be the case, as you can see, I highlighted in red where our LCFF revenue would decrease. In our previous multi-year projection, our total revenues would have been $113 million for 24-25. That's about $3 million less. We're at $110 million. And then in 25-26, instead of 114 million, that'll be 111 million. So because the COLA is ongoing, that $3 million is going to be ongoing. It's a reduction every year, which, as you can see, the 24-25 fiscal year, we would be at a 2.19%, but with our Fund 17, we would be at 6.39%. For 25-26, we would barely make 3.48% with Fund 17, but if we don't account for Fund 17, we would not be making the 3% reserve requirement. Okay. So key takeaways, like I said, mentioned before, the LAO projects that the state will face nearly a $68 billion budget deficit for 24-25. Keep in mind that $68 billion is the entire state budget. When it comes to Prop 98, they're assuming, I think it was like $7 million in 22-23, because they're still assuming a reduction for 22-23 fiscal year, 24-25, and 25-26. Just in Prop 28, we could see up to maybe $17-18 million deficit. But overall, the state is going to have to figure out how they're going to fix the $68 billion budget shortfall. Of course, the LAO has pointed out that unlike the 2008 deficit, and I was there, I experienced it, it was not pretty. The state has reserves and multiple tools to help address the budget problem, which includes tapping into the rainy day fund. Of course, he would have to declare a budget emergency in order to be able to tap into these funds. So, like I said, they project that for 24-25, the COLA could be less than 2%. And right now, we're still assuming a 3.94% at first interim, but of course, that's going to change. Once the January budget comes out on the 10th, we will have better information and therefore present to the board and account for it in our second interim. What are the major challenges ahead? Of course, it's now a risk to lower state revenues, reduce ADA due to lower rate of attendance. We are still assuming a 95% in our projections. Once our P1 report comes out, on January 10th, I believe, is when our P1 report, we will know if that rate is actually increasing. But we're still assuming 95%. Keep in mind, remember, had always assumed that we were at a 97%. And then cost pressures, pension rate increases. As you can see, PERS is now anticipating to increase slightly, but it's still, it's still an increase. And then expiring one-time COVID funds reliefs, and then the declining enrollment. All that is, challenges that we have to keep in mind. Right? So in January, the governor is going to be proposing his January budget. Hopefully we have better news of the 1.27. Not everyone's very optimistic, but hopefully if he does tap into that rainy day fund, hopefully we won't have to see that 1.27% COLA. And then in March, we will be bringing forward our second interim, which will account for all those changes in our multi-year projections. And with that, are there any questions?
Chris?
I just have a comment. You mentioned it may seem confusing to us, but the best part is that you know what you're doing, and we appreciate that.
And I love it. I must say, I do.
Any more board members' comments? I just want to say that listening to this, it's depressing. But I have faith in our business office. I have faith in the school district, and we have too many unknowns out there. We don't know what they're going to come up with. We don't know how they're going to juggle things around. Also, this may be too much information for the general public, but when there was a deferment on you're paying your federal taxes from April to October, that also caught, and then the state went along with that same deferment of getting when the taxes were due. That made a lot of people pay their taxes extremely late according to the calendar year, and they're still getting those payments in. So we really don't know how bad it is. So it will be interesting to see what happens in January. And I also know that we're very good at looking at our budget and seeing what can we do, what money needs to go where, what are our highest needs, what can we kick down the road a little bit. So I just want to say thank you for presenting this to us. Yeah, it's obviously something as board members we need to be highly aware of. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I would just add, even January, we probably really won't know. Every indication we're hearing is there'll be some information because he has to produce something, but it probably won't be till the May revise.
Oh, yeah.
As
We may not even know what the May revise. Yeah, we'll know because they have to pass the budget by June 30th?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I would now like to have a motion to accept our first interim report.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, now we're going on for a roll call, and now that Mrs. Galicia is sitting down, she can address it. This is a resolution 2023-24-13, intention to grant an easement for public utility purposes to the Southern California Edison.
Thank you, Madam President. We are bringing forward this resolution. Dish Wireless has the desire to deploy telecommunications for facility adjacent to the district office at the auxiliary. As you recall, there's a Dish tower, and they're needing to do some work. And therefore, Southern California, in order for them to provide them with electricity, they are requesting. So this is an intention to grant them the easement. We will do a public hearing on our next board meeting in January, and therefore the board can take action then.
Okay. But I still vote on this resolution, this one. I need a motion for approval of this resolution.
So move.
I'll second.
Are there any comments or questions from board members?
Yes, thank you. Questions. So is this a permanent easement?
It is permanent only up until we want it to be permanent. So there is language in the contract where if we feel like we need the easement back, we can request it. At this point, we don't see the need, but should we need it, or if the Dish Network company were to be dissolved and move, we would take it back.
Great. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Ms. Gatuli.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next item is the approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Orange County Department of Ed for Teacher Induction Program. Dr. Weiss-Wright.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, this is an annual MOU that we bring forward from the Department of Education, which does our teacher induction program for all of our new teachers.
Okay, this is, depending on how old you are, this is BITSA for our induction for our new teachers. May I have a motion, please?
So move.
I second.
Okay. Is there any comment from board members? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're now on to approval of warrants. Warrants are basically the checkbook of our school district. And Diane and I always pay attention, 41 pages, because we read every single one. And if we have a question, somebody has to research what these things are for. So may I please have a motion for approval of warrants as presented?
Also move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And now we have the part where the president should be speaking very clearly and slowly because we have our donations. We are so fortunate to be in a community that is so behind our schools and support them obviously financially and with all of their hours and goals that they want to occur on each one of their campuses. So these are the presentations of the donations that we have received. And because it's December, I think we're getting a lot of donations in. So right now, this month, we received $138,376.17. But the year to date, and this is from, we do it a fiscal year, so it's July 1st, $315,921.98. Thank you.
Woohoo.
Yeah. May I please have a motion?
So move.
Oh,
Did somebody
and somebody
second?
second? I'll
Okay, thank
second.
you. Yeah, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now have classified, certificated, and administrative personnel report. I'd like to do them all together. And Dr. Weiss-Wright, would you speak to them?
Yes, thank you. The classified, certificated, and administrative personnel reports reflect the changes over the last 30 days, and we recommend approval as submitted.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Second.
Second. All I can say is that HR has been busy. Is there any comment? Questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And this is an agreement and stipulation to suspended student expulsion, waiver of hearing and appeal rights. Mrs. Davidson, the joy of the Vice President.
Yeah. Motion to approve an agreement and stipulation to a suspended student expulsion waiver of hearing and appeals. It is moved that the agreement and stipulation to a suspended student's expulsion waiver of hearing and appeals rights for student A be approved for violation of the following education codes 48915.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And approval of agreement and stipulation to suspended student expulsion, waiver of hearing and appeal rights. Mrs. Davidson, please read.
Motion to approve an agreement and stipulation to a suspended student expulsion waiver of hearing and appeal rights. It is moved that the agreement and stipulation to a suspended student expulsion waiver of hearing and appeal rights for student B be approved for violation of the following education codes 48915.
May I have a second? Second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we're down to, because this is part of our organizational meeting, to our organization part of the board representation and their assignments for next year. I think everyone has a copy. And I'm going to do something really bold, and you guys can just shake your heads at me. But do you just want to keep it what we were doing last year, this year?
I'm good with that. The only thing I noticed is that we don't have an alternate for SELPA,
Yeah.
and I am not volunteering to do that, but I just noticed that there wasn't one.
You'll volunteer? Okay, so we'll put down, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there you
Yeah, I was going to say I'll do it because Chris always goes, so it's okay.
go. Yeah, but I really appreciate the board representation committees that I'm on, and I think they're well suited, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, so everybody's kind of shaking their head, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I totally agree with what you said, Diana, where I'm happy where I am, and I'm happy that other people are other places and they're doing a great job. Okay, well, this is like the first time this didn't take an hour and a half. Okay, then, let's see, do we have to do any approval of, okay. So I need a motion to approve the board representative assignments for 2024 and ongoing as of last year.
I so move.
Okay, any more further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
If we were smart, we should have really just voted Scott in for everything.
Anything you don't like to do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the board is going to have to go into closed session again. But before we go into closed session, I just personally, and as a representative of the board, want to wish everybody in our community, and our staffs and our students, a very wonderful holiday, regardless of what you celebrate. And even if you don't really specifically celebrate, it's still a good time to take a moment and review the wonderful things you have in your life and what you can give for others. And I also want to tell our students have a great winter break. The nice thing about starting school in August, if you're a secondary student, which means middle or high school, your finals are over and you can really enjoy winter break, and so can the staff. So that's really good. And then the only other comment I'd like to make is our next meeting will be January 16th. So we're going to go into closed session. Thank you so much.